Hi, it's Leigh Hankin here from Hyper Prospecting. So this video, hopefully it's going to be a very value-packed one for you all today. So I'm going to be going through basically the B2B Outbound GTM Playbook that we've used really throughout 2025 to generate, I'm not sure exactly the numbers, but probably a minimum of at least 1,000 B2B leads through various outbound campaigns we've run throughout 2025. And at this stage, I don't foresee this playbook changing as we head into 2026. There might be some slight changes, like technical things, but overall, from a top level overview, it's basically going to be the same playbook. So this has been a very effective playbook or approach here that I've used in my business, various client campaigns, some to more varying degrees of success than with others. I can think of one client, for example, with a software we've generated just using some parts of this, like 126 leads just for this year. And that wasn't even using everything that's in this playbook. So basically the more of this you can use, the better results you're going to get, because it's all holistic. So let's just dive into it. So basically the playbook here. So you've got really like the intent signals, and you've got these niche databases, lookalikes, directories, Google Maps. So what I'll do, we'll start with intent signals, because there's pretty much like two ways to do outbound. You've kind of got your campaigns where you're focusing on signals or triggers, and then you kind of have they're like a bucket of prospects and accounts you're going to reach out to that you can make more personalized and stuff like that. And then you've got kind of over here where it's like the niche databases, lookalikes, directories, Google Maps. It's more kind of broad-based ICP style outreach, kind of more volume involved, let's put it that way. Like, it's still highly targeted, personalized. It's not spray and pray, but there's more of a volume aspect to it, whereas with the intent signals, it's really more granular, if I could put it that way. So starting with the intent signals, there's kind of three branches to it. You've got trigger, LinkedIn, website visitors. So triggers, you may or may not have heard of or be familiar of. It's really like, there's a lot of different triggers and signals to look at within this. Some of the most common ones are stuff like funding rounds, hires, growth, expansions, stuff like that. But there's a lot of stuff you can use, honestly. I'm just thinking of a recent client. One of their signals was like probability of an IPO, like initial public offering for startups. So basically my point is, with these triggers, they're just going to vary based on your business. But the point with them is you're looking at, because one of the key things with outbound is timing. These triggers kind of bridge that gap, that timing gap, so you can make your outreach more relevant. Like, it's basically like reaching out literally at the exact right time, so you're more likely to get a higher positive response rate. Okay, so that's kind of the logic behind it, which is why it works so well. So generally, like in my experience, you won't, like when you look at your entire TAM you've sourced or list of prospects, generally you won't have a huge amount that have triggers, which is why you can make them so personalized and things like that, which is why you want to kind of give it a bit more care and thought, just because there's less of them, and the fact that you've got the timing there that you can bridge. So there's a lot of different triggers, but the point is they kind of they help you bridge that timing gap with outbound, because the key principle with outbound is reaching out at the right time with the right offer to the right person. If you get those three elements nailed, you're going to get positive responses. The timing element is one that you cannot always know, but triggers, they give you that kind of ability to make a very highly educated, let's call it guess, that the timing's there. Okay, so really important, and it's definitely been a very effective kind of part of the outbound campaigns we've run throughout 2025. Then we got LinkedIn. So you can use tools like Triggerfire, for example. There's probably others out there, but you're kind of looking at signals here. Is like there's different degrees of intent with these. Like someone just viewing your profile is not the same level of intent as, say, someone who's engaging and commenting on your posts. But it still is a signal. It's just not as strong. So yeah, there's different kind of layers. There's like with profile viewers, new followers or connections, engagement scraping, stuff like that. Engagement scraping being the highest, because obviously if they're like commenting or liking your content, that's a much higher signal compared to someone who just went on your profile and looked at what you do. So yeah, so you can use tools like Triggerfire, and I'm sure there's others, probably a lot of others that allow you to like find out this information and do it in a very automated way. But yeah, so there's some signals there on LinkedIn. If you're active on LinkedIn, which I'd recommend you do be, but if you are active on LinkedIn, I'd recommend really looking into this. It's a very effective approach. Obviously, if you're not active on LinkedIn, it's not really going to work. Website visitors. This is probably the weakest of these three, honestly. Because it doesn't necessarily signal intent, but it can signal intent. Like it just depends on the person and where they're at. So that's why I figured to put it in still. I have seen success with it, although, yeah, in my experience, it's not as strong as the Trigger and LinkedIn as a signal. But yeah, there's different tools that allow you to basically de-anonymize who's been on your website, and then you can reach out to them via email or even LinkedIn or whatever you want to do. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's really the signals, kind of top level overview, how they work. So they're the three most common ones, most effective, with triggers being probably the most effective, and then LinkedIn second, and then website visitors. And then once you kind of get all your information about your prospects related to these signals, you kind of feed them down here into like your enrichment tool. We generally now use Airscale, sometimes Persona, still just depends. Obviously Clay, very popular one. But yeah, you kind of feed all this information into Airscale to then do your company level enrichments, waterfall contact enrichment to get email addresses. I'll cover this a bit later, this step, because I just want to basically move on to this before we get into it. But yeah, so it all feeds back into these tools. So that's the signals. And then if we look over here, the more kind of broader kind of ICP, always on style outreach. So yeah, so obviously the highest response rates you get are going to be from the signals, but you generally won't have as many prospects that kind of satisfy that criteria like you will with these kind of more broader ICP based outreach approaches here. But this still works really well. Like I said, the example I gave at the start of the video, we got soft company that's they have their own software, and I mean we just did kind of these ICP style outreaches, and I mean we got 126 leads this year. I think it was 126. I mean they had clients like Sony Music sign up, like more than a 20,000 deal, 20,000K deal. So yeah, these work really well as well. So don't kind of discount that. just that the intent signals definitely generally will get a higher response rate, but this kind of ICP broad style also works very well if it's done right. So yeah, so with the kind of more broader volume-based outbound we're looking at here, there's really these 4 layers: niche databases, lookalikes, online directories, Google Maps. And each of these is going to vary based on your circumstances. Like, for example, Google Maps is only really going to work if you're like targeting local businesses. In my opinion, you just wouldn't use it for any other reason. So to give you an example, one company we were working with, they wanted to target pet stores throughout the UK. So this is where this comes into it. Obviously, pet stores, small pet stores as local businesses in each city, town, stuff like that. This is where Google Maps and scraping that comes into it. But most B2B companies, that isn't going to be applicable. For most B2B companies, you're really going to be looking at either databases, lookalikes, directories. So databases, again, depends on the niche, who you're targeting. So if you wanted to look at startups specifically with certain funding rounds, identifying IPO probabilities, all that kind of good stuff, Crunchbase. If you're targeting e-com, you were looking at specific tech stacks like built with, store leads, stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of different niche databases out there. I mean, you've got SaaS ones as well. Can't remember the name of the SaaS one off the top of my head. It'll probably come to me later, but there is quite a big one. That's a SaaS-based one. You've got a lot of them out there. You just do some basic research on it and go on ChatGPT and even, get ChatGPT to give you a list of niche databases for whatever your circumstances are. So this has been one of the most effective ways that we do our outbound campaigns, is these niche databases. Probably my favorite is the lookalikes. This is one I've just found like time and time again, it just works. So lookalikes means it's basically profiling like your best clients and building lookalikes around them. So you look at like all the characteristics at a demographics, firmographics level, and you build lookalikes around them. So there's a couple ways you can do this. Ocean.io is one. There's also other tools that do this. Ocean is what we use though, just because we use Airscale and they have an integration in there with Ocean. So it's obviously just makes sense to use Ocean. It'll basically like you put in the URLs of your best clients and it will spit out like a whole bunch of results of companies and their URLs that are similar to the client URLs you put in. So it's a really fast, obviously you got to tweak and refine searches and stuff like that. That's a really fast way to do it. Another way I like to do the lookalikes is keywords and industry filter searches, like in a tool like Apollo. So again, you take your best clients and you find them on Apollo. You look at what their industry filter is, what their keywords are, and then you just build like lookalikes based around the keywords and industry filters of your best clients in Apollo. It's been a really effective way as well. So when you're using both like Ocean plus this keywords industry approach, you're really going to be able to capture like a seriously large amount of your TAM, and it's very accurate generally as well. Like I said, it's probably my favorite database building method, really. It just works time and time again. Often the best results we see when it comes to this kind of volume ICP based outreach is really from lookalikes, definitely. Online directories. So this is going to be depend like. There's going to be directories generally for most businesses where they have listed out the types of companies you can target. So, I mean, just to give you an example, one of our clients, they target food and beverage brands, and there's obviously a lot of different directories where you can find, like, whether it's trade association directories or just something else, where you have lists of those types of companies. So in this case, yeah, like food and beverage brands, and then you can just scrape those. You can either do that automated or do it manually. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. It's another tool in the arsenal to build solid lists of prospects and accounts. But yeah, I'd probably put this one as secondary, and I'd put primary niche database and lookalikes, and using directories as the secondary way to do it. But you want to really use them all purely so you can maximize the TAM for your campaigns. Yeah, so once you've done all that, it all feeds into Apollo. So, if you're doing the directory scraping, you obviously got the list of companies, company URLs. You then feed that, upload that into Apollo. And you do the same with the lookalikes. Like once you get the URLs, company names from Ocean, you're going to then upload them into Apollo. If you're doing the keywords and industry lookalikes approach, obviously that's already within Apollo anyway. And then it's the same, like niche databases to get the actual contacts. Like if you use something like Store Leads doesn't give you contact information, it gives you company information about e-com stores. So then you still need to upload that list of stores and their URLs into Apollo to get the contacts at those stores. Same with Crunchbase and stuff. So yeah, basically all feeds into Apollo. All these 4 layers all feed into Apollo, because Apollo is where you get the contacts at the accounts. Because all these databases, lookalikes, directories, Google Maps, it's all account sourcing. And then Apollo is like the people sourcing part of it. Yeah, so once you've done that and you've got the lists in Apollo, you export it. You then want to add it into a table, into one of these tools here, so say AirScale. So yeah, you upload the list of contacts, companies you've sourced into AirScale. And the reason we do this, 2 reasons. One is company level enrichments, and the other is waterfall contact enrichment. So company level enrichments, there's a lot we can unpack with that, so I'm just going to give you the short kind of stick of that. Company level enrichments could be like ICP filtering and qualification. So it's like using the web research agents in these tools. So AirScales is called AirSearch. Personas, it's like, I think Persona Quantum Agent or something. Clays is ClayGen. So you're using these AI-based web research agents, and you're like filtering for the ICP. So basically it's like creating prompts to make sure the list of companies you've got is 100% what you're looking for. You can also use them for like scoring, finding different signals. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So I'm not going to kind of unpack all that, because it's honestly a separate video. There's just, the amount of stuff you can do when it comes to company level enrichments these days is quite mind-blowing, to be honest, in terms of the information you can find out. But the point is, you want to upload all the contacts and companies into a table in one of these tools, AirScale, Clay, Persona, so you can run company level enrichments and just kind of get the most complete and accurate picture possible about the contacts and the companies you're going to be reaching out to. Okay, so that's company level enrichments. Then we have like waterfall contact enrichment, which just means like getting the verified email addresses. So Apollo's email addresses are very 50-50 in my experience. Like they'll tell you they're verified, and they're like, 30% of them are just like crap. So obviously you can't use them. But Apollo is really good for getting people level data, because it's just such a huge database. So once you've uploaded it into AirScale, Clay, Persona, the waterfall contact enrichment is going to get the email address. And what that means is, so AirScale will have like 7 different providers it'll run through. So it'll be like, I can't remember them all, but it's like ICPs, Lead Magic, what else is there? Any email finder or something like that. What else? Prospeo. There's a few different ones, but it basically runs through each provider. So if like ICPs doesn't have the person's email address, like it'll try Lead Magic and so on and so on, which is hence why it's called waterfall level enrichment. So basically what happens, the workflow we use is if, like in AirScale, for example, after going through this process, there are still people whose email addresses we haven't found. We'll then use another tool called Better Contact. And Better Contact has something like 20 data providers, I think. So yeah, so whatever we can't get, we would then export and upload into Better Contact. And you'll generally get, like, depending on the audience, you might get another 10, 20%, even 30%, but generally not that high. I'd say more 10, 20% of additional contacts. So by using both of these approaches, these waterfall contact enrichment approaches, you're just maximizing the amount of contacts you can reach out to with like quality email addresses. So yeah, super important part of the process. And once you've done that, it's really, you're ready to do your outreach. So cold email, LinkedIn, cold calling. Cold email and LinkedIn is more our bread and butter, although cold calling something recently we started doing as well. But this cold email and LinkedIn's really the primary methods. Cold calling, though, is very effective for certain industries, partly because it's just like a lot of people don't do it anymore. So it's just like a channel that has a bit less noise compared to cold email and LinkedIn. So yeah, it's still don't disregard the calling side of it. But yeah, cold email, LinkedIn's more our bread and butter still. But yeah, you want to be using all the channels you got just to get in front of your target prospects to maximize opportunities, and multi-channel, like at a minimum, cold email and LinkedIn. I mean, it's just an absolute must do, to be honest, in where we're at. So yeah, so you got your 3 outreach channels there. And then yeah, the way it works is once you're either going to get interested responses or not interested responses, or people who just don't reply at all. Alright, so interested responses you get, obviously the aim there, you're going to get different categories of responses and levels of intent, which you need to categorize and deal with accordingly. Again, that's kind of really a topic for a separate video. But yeah, so just for the sake of this, the interested responses you're going to get, the aim is to address their query as fast as possible. The quicker you can do it, the better, once they reply initially, to convert them into a call, an offline call. So it's really generally going to be always, for most B2B companies, what you want to be doing is you want to be really aiming to convert as many of these initial interested responses, these opportunities as possible, into offline discovery calls or demos if it's a software. Okay. And then after the demo discovery call, obviously there's further qualification. And then there's really only, well, it was actually 3 outcomes, but I haven't put the third here. The third outcome is that they don't become a client. And then the other 2 is they do become a client, or they're just not ready right now, in which case nurturing follow-up process comes into play. You know, that could be a whole variety of things. Could be just like timely manual email follow-ups or outreaches on LinkedIn where you keep in touch every few months. Could be putting them in a kind of longer term nurturing email sequence where you're getting like weekly kind of value-based emails, things like that. Okay, so that's essentially the process. You know, basically that's essentially, yeah, the top level process of this playbook. Like I said, start of the video, I'd say in excess of 1,000 leads we've generated this year across my business plus client businesses. The highest response rates you're generally going to get from the intent signals. But yeah, the ICP kind of volume-based outreach as well is another really core component. Like as I mentioned, one of the examples is a client with their software just using this kind of ICP volume base. We've generated 126 leads 2025. So still a very effective way to do it. So I'd be like prioritizing intent signals as number one, and then obviously the ICP based approach here, and yeah, it all feeds downwards till obviously the ideal scenario, which is a new client, new revenue. So yeah, it's been a very effective playbook, an approach we've ran. Don't foresee this really changing hugely throughout 2026, to be honest. Maybe some technical things will change, or they most likely will, but from a top level overview, this will generally remain the same. So yeah, so hopefully this was a valuable video. You kind of learned a lot, got a bit better an understanding of how this system kind of works and flows into all the different branches. If you want help implementing a system like this for your company in 2026, the best next step is to book a call, reach out directly, and we can go from there and see if there's a good fit. If there's a good fit, what we do is we always offer 30-day validation sprints. Okay, so we don't lock you into 3-6-month contracts or anything up front like most other companies without even knowing if it's going to work or not. All we ask is you commit to a 30-day validation sprint. Okay, and there's no obligation to continue beyond that, and you still keep all the assets we create. If you do want to continue beyond that, then we'd go in for another 2 months, basically months 2 and 3 of outreach. But we always do the 30-day validation sprint to essentially validate assumptions, generate some traction, see how we work together, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to find out more, see how we can implement this for you 2026, do book a call and we can go from there. Otherwise, I appreciate your time and I hope to hear from you soon.